Okay, here's the deal. I've always had this theory of no matter how good a shape you're in, and I'm not in good shape, for the record, when you go up steps, you're going to breathe heavy. I don't care who you are. Lance Armstrong could go up those steps right there, and he's going to breathe. So forgive me for breathing a little heavier as I get started. There was no elevator outside. So anyway, yeah, started practice up a couple weeks ago, and really happy to be into the thick of things as far as practice goes. Like our group, like what we're trying to do. Anytime you're implementing a whole new system and a change in philosophy, there are a lot of challenges that come with that. And so I really like where this group is in terms of trying to get accomplished the things that we value and are going to value and trying to get accomplished. I'm really happy with that, honestly. And they are really enjoying themselves and being around each other every day at practice. And so it's been really fun to be around them and to watch them and to coach them. So really excited about that. And we'll be scrimmaging someone in 10 days from today, which is crazy to say that it'll be here at that point. And so, but really like the group that way, and really excited about this year. So with that, any questions that anyone might have?
Hey, Lamont. Dave Cloninger with the Posting Courier.
Dave, how are you?
Good to see you again. How are you?
Great.
When you come into a first-year program and you're doing what you can with recruiting just to build a roster, will this year be more about trying to implement the system that you want long-term, or do you have to kind of tweak it and say, I've got to coach this group of guys this way just for this year?
Both, yeah. I think it's both. I mean, we're not going to be from a personnel standpoint, we're not completely suited to do everything that I want to do. So it would be hard-headed of me to try to force some things on the personnel that we have. But at the same time, there are some things that are going to be in our DNA as a team as we move forward, and so those things will be implemented. And fortunately, those have less to do with ability and more to do with willingness to try those things. So, yeah, good question, but I think it's a little bit of both. I normally will morph kind of what we do. I've had bigs that were back-to-basket scorers that didn't shoot threes at all. I've had bigs that only shot threes. I've had bigs that were rim runner, block shotter, shot blocker, dunkers, and I've had bigs that were under the rim, on the ground, chester uppers. So there's a lot of flexibility in what you do, but there are some things, certain things that will be a part of our DNA.
Hey, Lamont, I'm with you on the stairs thing. I'm still
Yeah.
catching my breath over here.
There you go.
Too. But as you've gotten these guys on campus and gotten to know them a little bit better, what's maybe surprised you about some of these guys where you think, man, wow, I didn't realize this guy was like this, whether it's basketball-wise, personality-wise, or things of that nature?
Yeah, from a basketball standpoint, let's see. One is Meechie Johnson, in terms of some of the passes that he's made on a consistent basis. I wasn't, he didn't play the point, and that was part of the reason why he came here, is because he wanted to play the point guard position. And so sometimes guys just want to play the point because they bring the ball up. There's a whole set of responsibilities that goes along with that has kind of been lost in translation over the last 15 years, I would say. And so, but some of the passes that he's been able to make on a consistent basis, so it's not like he tripped and fell his way into this pass. He's done it enough times that he sees that pass and is willing to make that pass. So that was, in your terms, a surprise that they consistently would see that and make that play. From a basketball standpoint, you're such in year one in information gathering mode, and then making your adjustments off of what you're capable of doing, that my expectations weren't in a particular place. I think that's when you get surprised, right? I expected to rain today and then it's sunny, so I'm surprised at that. So my expectations were I really wasn't going off of expectations, so there weren't a lot of surprises. But I do. I'm pleasant. I mean, it's not a surprise, but I'm glad that what I do see out there is a group of young men that do enjoy the whole process of working, improving, being criticized, elating, having frustrations, running hills, lifting weights. We have a group that seems to really enjoy doing that with each other, and so that's always a good sign when you have that. And so I'm happy that's where we are with that.
Hey, Coach. Rick Henry, WIS-TV.
Rick, how we doing?
I'm doing great. Hope you're doing well also. Following up on what you just said, you said you really like this group. And when you look at what you're trying to accomplish on the basketball court during practice, what do you like the most about what you're seeing from this group?
Our willingness to dedicate themselves to doing something that's completely uncomfortable and foreign to them that I believe will help win games, even though they don't necessarily see that it will help us win games. You think about being in that situation. You're asking me to do something. It's uncomfortable for me. I'm not even good at it. I don't want to do it. And I probably don't even think it's going to help us win. But you're asking me to do it, and then I willingly do that, and I'm criticized when I don't have successes doing that. It's a hard situation for any of us to be in, let alone guys that are, I used to say it used to be 18 to 22. It's 17 to 24, I think, for us this year. So in that window, it's hard to be in those circumstances and then still come every day and want the work. So I've really been happy with and I feel fortunate. I've thanked these guys. I've thanked these guys for doing that. They don't have to be like that. They don't have to, they didn't pick me, some of these guys. Some of them did. So they don't have to be like that. They can, and it's not always the in vogue thing to be like that and to be willing to try something that's outside of your comfort zone, especially with kids of this age and this particular era. So.
Yeah, Lamont, outside of Colin Taylor, Gamecock Central, I guess outside of wins and losses, which obviously is the main thing, what do you consider a successful year for you guys in terms of building a program in year one?
Growth and getting better. I think even in the best teams that I've ever coached, that's been a thing. Rarely have they come out of the gates really fast and then didn't really have to get much faster. It's happened a couple times, I think back to the 2015 Final Four team that we did. Not the 14 team, but the 15 team was good instantly and consistently. Those are rarities. That's a rarity. And so my calling card and trademark has been teams have gotten better. Some had no choice but to get better a couple times. And got marginally better, but some have made tremendous improvements. And so for this team for it to be a success at the end of the day, to me, I will evaluate where we are on November 8th and then what that looks like in March, and then I'll continually evaluate that throughout the season to see how we are continuing to grow.
Hey, Alan Cole with Gamecock Scoop. Hope you're doing well today.
Alan, thank you.
Yep. You talked a little bit about your system, maybe some things that make guys uncomfortable. If someone had never seen your system or maybe didn't watch you at Chattanooga, how would you explain your system, kind of what you're trying to do here with these players?
Yeah. So what's the least comfort that they have is the defensive stuff, and some of the offensive stuff, just because kids today, the basketball has moved in a direction. I won't say deteriorated, but it has moved in a direction where what is perceived by them to be a good shot or situation for themselves is drastically different than what that was 10, 12, 15 years ago. So that's a big part of getting the message across to them. But the biggest part will be for me stylistically, defensively, and that where they're least comfortable is some of the things I'm asking them to do defensively. If you're a shot blocker, then you can block shots. But I think the best shot blocker in the conference is probably going to block 3 a game, possibly, if he's really good, right? So we talk about some positional stuff defensively, the discipline to not go for a shot fake. So if he does not shoot the shot, you don't bite on and give him an easier shot. So he's got to make the shot that he planned on making. If he decides not to shoot that, well, then you're in a better position. So discipline on that, physicality of chesting up and doing things in a way where you're, least likely to get a foul called on you. Just a lot of things. As free as I have these guys play offensively, we're the opposite defensively. There aren't a lot of decisions to be made defensively. I find that works well. We always everyone knows why the breakdown occurred and how to get better, right? If everyone is playing their own role. I even used this earlier today. The 80%, you can have an 80% in almost any class and feel pretty good about what you got accomplished, but when it comes exam day in basketball on game day and you get an 80, that's 4 out of 5 guys doing the right thing and 1 guy doing the wrong thing, and 80% is no good on the defensive end. So you have to know what you're doing. You have to know your coverages. You have to be disciplined in it. You have to do it. If it happens 1,000 times in one game, 1,000 times you do this, because it's only a decision and a willingness to do that. It's not the easier thing. It takes more effort. You put yourself in harm's way at some point in time, so people don't necessarily want to do it. But that's when I say they've been willing to do it. So stylistically, to get way back to your question, is that, defensively, we're going to be hard to score on. I know that I don't want to dumb it down too much, but you're going to not enjoy playing against us defensively. The amount of effort you're going to have to put into getting 2 points or 3 points is going to be more than you are going to in most games. And then offensively, I like to let guys play. I work really hard at trying to develop what they're good at offensively, each individual. And everyone's skill set's going to be different. And then when we get in the game, I only have one responsibility offensively, and that's to potentially put you in a position to do that. But you can't. It's not a time to experiment on game day. But I let guys play offensively. I want to be aggressive. I want to shoot. I like offense. I'm a defensive-minded guy, but I just don't. When the game of basketball, when the first time these guys saw it, I don't think they said, "What are those guys doing over there? They're playing basketball? Ooh, let me go guard somebody." I don't think that was what it was that got them jazzed up about basketball. So we got to score some points. I like scoring points.
Hale McGranahan, Big Spur, 24/7 Sports. You alluded to the range of age with this group, 17 to 24.
24, I think, is our oldest this year.
How challenging has it been to bring guys together that way? Since if you have younger guys, naturally may not mix with older guys, but you got really young guys and really old guys. So how does that dynamic kind of flow?
It's been fun, honestly. It's a challenge, but it's been fun. And I'll say this: our older guys are really mature, not just in their age, but in how they handle things emotionally. They've been, Hayden Brown for us he's our oldest player. He's got a master's in leadership, so we have the right older guys. That makes it a little easier for me. We're running the hill. One of our final hills, and all of the young guys struggled with it to start. But Gigi in particular, one time, he hits a wall that he would normally had hit a week before, and he busts through it. So it's good to see that growth. And then he yells out, and he's saying something demonstrative, and Hayden looks over, and he's like, "Young guys, that's cute." And it's so you have it's the whole gamut, right? But we do have the right older guys that are going to influence these guys. It doesn't matter how you slice it, who's better, who's worse, they're older, and they've been around the block, and they're going to influence your younger guys. And so it's been fun for me. It presents its challenges when we're on the court, because I think as you get older and more mature in a basketball sense, what I really need to spend more time when listening needs to really occur, and young guys still haven't figured that out all the time. So it's good to have the right older guys.
Coach, you kind of talked about instilling confidence in your players offensively, and if a guy can't be confident under you offensively, he can't be. What goes into What does a good, confident offensive basketball player look like in your eyes?
So, I mean, it's different for everything. Like I'd like to have, 7-footers that can initiate your offense and shoot threes. In my dream, when I dream, that's what I dream about as it pertains to basketball, maybe just in general. But you don't always get that. And so being a confident player is knowing what you're good at, the coach knowing what you're good at, everyone else knowing what you're good at, and then having complete freedom to do what it is that you're already good at. I think that if you can't help but be confident in those circumstances, you can't help. I think doubt creeps in when you're doing something that you're not sure that it looks good. You saw it on YouTube. Somebody made that shot, but you're not sure that you can make that shot. So we work really hard in the summer and trying to identify what those situations are for each guy. It's going to be different for each guy. And some guys, younger guys, G.G. Jackson, we're going to have to bring him along, right? So, some guys' bag of tools is going to be a little bigger than other guys' bag of tools. I've used the Bruce Lee quote. I'll paraphrase it because I don't know exactly what the verbatim quote is, but he said, "I fear not the man who has performed 1,000 kicks one time. I fear the man who has performed one kick 1,000 times." And so you may have one kick. If it's a real legitimate kick, then it's a real tool for us. It's a real tool. Some guys are going to have 3 or 4 kicks, right, that they've performed 1,000 times. So everyone's bag is going to be a little bit different, but knowing who you are as a player and then having the complete freedom to operate out there at what you do well, I just think it breeds an unbelievable amount of confidence.
Hey, Coach. Jacob Phillips, Daily Gamecock.
Jacob?
You mentioned Gigi a little bit. Just what have you seen from him compared to the other guys on the squad, and how do you think he's adjusted to that daily student-athlete life? I said this before I coached him for one day, that I felt like he had a capacity to learn was high, and I was right. I was prophetic. He picked stuff up. There's some things that you coach specifically, and then and you expect guys to do things when you coach this, and we've drilled this particular thing. We've practiced it. You should do this in the game. Some guys struggle with that. He's the type of guy, as a coach, there are a couple other things that you say, hey, one day as a group we'll be able to do this. Not for now, but I will just throw that out there because that's what we aspire to be in a year, a month, whatever that is. And he'll start doing some of those things on his own in the game, in 5-on-5 play. So I've been really happy with him that way. He's a young guy. He's 17, and he does everything that 17-year-olds should do and do. So I've been really happy with him. I wanted to be more aggressive on both sides of the ball, probably, if anything. For a guy that has all the acclaim and accolades and attention that he's had, he's an extremely willing passer. He's good at it, that helps, but he's an extremely willing passer and, understands how to grow into your role. He didn't come in here the first day saying, I'm G.G. Jackson, I got to shoot it 27 times, or at least one time more than whoever else shot the most. It wasn't that, so I give him a lot of credit on that, but I'm gonna always want more from him because he has potential to be a guy that can provide more.
John Whittle, the Big Spur.
John?
Have you had, apart from Ebo, have y'all had any guys miss significant time since the fall started due to injury?
Yeah, we've had a couple guys in and out. I mean, some of the normal stuff, the usual things. Guys are nicked up here and there. Hayden Brown's had a couple things that he's been in and out a couple times, and so he's a wily veteran. So I don't worry about him catching back up on this or that. But other than that, we've been fairly healthy. It's just you have to take that with a grain of salt.
I didn't miss hardly any practices when I played. You could call it good luck or what it was. You know, I had an assistant coach when I was 4 or 5 years ago that started off at Ohio State as a player, transferred to Ohio University, was a really good player. He said he missed 3 practices in his whole career. That doesn't happen anymore. So, you know, guys will roll an ankle. I'm not saying that no one rolled ankles back then. Maybe people were smarter now. Right? Maybe that's probably what it is. We're just smarter. We were hard-headed back then. But most guys, I'd say 75% of our guys have missed 1 practice at least due to something. But the usual nicks, other than, you know, Ebo had a real thing.
And also with the point guard position, who have you identified a few of the guys who you want playing there, and what are a couple of things that you value most in having a guy run that spot?
Yeah. So Michi Johnson, I talked about him already. Jacoby has played some point, you know, and then the rest. Well, Ebo actually has played some point. He led the Southern Conference in assists, or not the Southern Conference, but the Big South in assists. But you know, we'll see if Chico, what that looks like for him. He shoots the ball at a really high level right now, and so my anticipation is that there probably won't be a lot of true point guard with him. But here's my number one. Here's the first thing that I would expect at that position. Most positions too, but you have an idea, and you identify someone on your team that you want to throw the ball to, and then you make that decision and you let it releases your hands. My expectation is that it gets home safely to the person that you intended it to go to. That's the main thing. It's not to say you'll never have turnovers. You're going to have a lot. The ball's going to be in your hand a lot. You're going to have a lot of decisions. They're going to throw the press on you unexpectedly. It's going to be a lot. You're going to turn the ball over. But under normal circumstances, I think that's the first thing. But then, you know, just what's your leadership qualities? I think the old school true point guard, that was a thing. Leadership qualities, the ability to tell someone else on the team, hey, we need this, or you're supposed to do that, or get it together. We're in a day and age where people don't talk to each other that way, right? I'm looking at you in your eye, not on purpose, but just because that's how I do. And they don't do that, right? And that's uncomfortable for them to do that. The point guard in 2022, in most places, is the person that happens to bring the ball up the court. That's who your point guard is, right? It's a real position that I think, again, over the last 5 to 10 years has changed. But I say all that to say a lot of those qualities Michi has. He has a lot of those qualities, which excites me as a coach to have someone playing a point that you can talk to. I can get on him. I can I can get on him. There's a lot of responsibility with that position. And so I'm going to tell you some things that you're not going to want to hear. And you got to filter all that and then get the message to the players the way they need to hear it, not the way I said it necessarily. It's important.
As you've been here for several months now and have gotten to know the community and been out there a little bit more, what's some of the feedback you've maybe gotten from fans, alumni, recruits, you know, especially after the GG news and the excitement with that? And have you talked at all with maybe Shane or Don or some of the other coaches about, you know, maybe strategies they've had for engaging the community here and things like that?
I haven't had those conversations intentionally necessarily. You know, Dawn and I have talked about, you know, what her process of you know, going from the proverbial these are extremes, outhouse to the penthouse, right? And what that looked like and how important the community was in supporting her and getting some local players even and all that. But the feedback I've gotten has been great. I've been out in the community. You know, I go to the Shane Beamer show sometimes, not because I feel like I have to, just because I want to support him, and then I want to go hear what he has to say. Game's coming up. I'm interested. But I think a lot of people have really, I've gotten great feedback. I mean, I don't know. How else would I get bad feedback, honestly, other than, because here's what I do on Twitter, okay? I'm never reading anything. Sorry, spoiler alert to anyone that ever wants to say something and hope it gets to me negatively on Twitter. I don't really do that, so I will sporadically throw something out there. But yeah, people are going to say nice things to you, I think, for the most part. But the feedback I've gotten has been really positive, really good. I'm excited. I'm excited for the community. I'm excited about, not to keep running on, but here's what I do want to happen. And I'll use my days at Wisconsin as an example. So anyone that's 20 years old right now, 22 even, that's a Wisconsin basketball fan. From the day they were born until this day today, they can only remember 1 year where that team was not in the NCAA tournament. That's a 22-year-old, right? Anyone who's 50 remembers that same thing, but when they were that 20-year-old, can only remember 1 year that Wisconsin Badgers were in the NCAA tournament, right? So that group of people, the people that are 22, they're just rah-rah fans. It's great to have them, you know, right? That's all they know is to be a fan. The people that are 50, they appreciate it in another whole way, right? And so those were extreme analogies, but I'm looking for the people that right now are going to be that 50-year-old that says, man, I remember when we'd go to a tournament here and there, right? It's been 18 years. We've been once in 18 years. Am I right on that? That's accurate. So think about you're 19 years old and I'm recruiting you as a 17-year-old. In high school right now. You're like, oh, I remember 1 year. They went to the Final Four. And then what they do before that. They don't know anything else, right? I want that group of people to be in there now. I'm recruiting those guys, not the players. I'm recruiting the fans that when they're later on in their lives are going to say, man, we've been in NCAA tournament 17 straight years. Remember when it was 1 out of 18? This is crazy. And I want those people. I'll take anybody that wants to show up to a game, trust me, and wave a towel around and cheer for us. Anyone, I'll take that guy or gal. But who I really want are the people that are going to be in there, period. And it's going to look great some days, and it's going to look terrible another day, and it's going to, hopefully they're more good than bad. But your appreciation value and it'll be your team. It won't feel like your team. You'll have some real stake in the claim of saying, I was there, we did that, right? And so that's who I really want to be our fans. But again, I'll take the rah-rah person that just wants to show up on a random Saturday and cheer for us too.
We got time for 3 more. I think I have 3 hands raised.
Hi, Coach. Amanda Poole with Watch Fox.
Amanda,
Nice to see you.
you've been patient. I've seen your hand up a few times. So
I'm terrible with timing, but I got it. So just to talk about, you touched on a couple of the players, but kind of those core group of guys, your Jacoby, your Chico, the guys that were here last year, what have they been able to bring, or maybe a perspective or a benefit from having them here last year that they brought into this season?
That's a good question. That's a hard question for me, honestly, because just when you take something over, you're trying to change. You're changing almost everything, right? Unless, I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but I think these are facts. So the guy that took over the Arizona job, right? Great coach. 5 starters from a team that was really good, right? 5 starters came back that following year, so I'm sure you wanted everything that they were going to impart in terms of winning, in terms of what that looked like. I'm sure you have your own spin on things too, but you want all of that. And when you have the guys that are returners haven't played as much, it's hard from a basketball standpoint to have them have a lot of impact on how that looks, right? That's a little more difficult. So for me to evaluate what they have brought that specifically relates to the fact that they were here before would have more to do with managing and handling things that are specific to this city, this university, this campus. And I'm sure there's been plenty of that, particularly once they leave practice and whatnot. But that's a good question. It's a hard question for me to answer right here on the spot. I'd have to dig into it a little bit more.
Matt Dowell with Watch Fox as well. Hey, Lamont, how are you?
Matt, good.
You spoke of Gigi and all the attention that he has. It's a lot for a 17-year-old. Do you guys ever discuss how to deal with all of that attention and pressure? And if so, what do you tell him?
Yeah, sometimes, sometimes some of it's kind of like right from the start, certainly you have a sit down about what are your expectations, here's how we get there, this is kind of what you can expect in life coming here with all of that, and then it's kind of you let it happen and see, are you making good decisions? Where are you at as it pertains to showing up for class every day? What are you putting on your social media? People are going to read that and respond to that. So it's kind of like you let that happen, and then you find a couple times here and there to sit down and give your experiences and your advice and your opinion. And so we've done that a couple times. And he's really good. He's been really receptive to the things that I say. But I talk about what his long-term goals are from a basketball standpoint, and I talk about how many people have had those same goals and failed for reasons that had less to do with dribbling, passing, or shooting, and more reasons to do with who you're around, how did you handle yourself, what does your day-to-day work ethic life look like, and there's so many. It's so hard to be these guys. It's hard to be him. He has one of the hardest jobs in all of America, right? Harder than whoever the same version of him was in 2017 even, certainly in 2010, certainly before that. More opportunity, more scrutiny, more visibility, more quote-unquote pressures, more of everything, more cooks in the kitchen, more money, more resources, more of everything. And while that's great, it's also very difficult for a 17-year-old that could still be in high school right now. So. It's just a continuous thing, trying to have good teammates, and the guys he's going to spend his time around the most be your teammates. We talk about that a lot, but it'll be an ongoing process every day. They're kids, even Hayden, but they're kids, and so it's just a day-to-day thing.
Hey, Coach, Lou Bajak from the State. What have you seen from your other freshmen? Like Daniel and Zachary so far, and how do you see their role going in the season?
Yeah, I'll say I'm really happy with that freshman group, really happy, and I say that specifically not only because you asked about them, but that's kind of the group that it can be hard to put together. You're the senior class. You get the job in April, right? March, April. What kind of senior class are you going to? Who's available at that time? What are you going to? That can be sometimes, and you feel like you need to take a couple guys, or your fan base is going to say, oh, the guy came in here, he didn't sign anybody, right? So you sign a couple guys just to say you signed someone, and it's the wrong guys. And so to preface it with that, I love that freshman group, really good freshman group. They spend, it's the Three Stooges now. I don't know if it's Three Stooges or Three Amigos with one of them, but they are always together. They spend a lot of time together. They have fun. They help keep you young, but they're talented also, right? I think we already know and have talked about Gigi, but Daniel is one of the strongest, most physically advanced freshmen I've ever been around. I mean, he's just a strong guy naturally. And I mean, I'm not in a weight room every day, so I don't know what it looks like in the weight room. But if you ever need your car pushed out of the way, I bet you he could just shove the thing. He's a strong guy, powerful guy, and he's aggressive and explosive. And I keep talking to him about don't ever change that. No matter what I say, don't ever stop being aggressive. And I think he's going to be able to score in a lot of ways one day. And then Zach's probably shown the most improvement possibly of anyone on the team from the day that we got here. Again, physically he had a long ways to go, but he's improved that way. But even his basketball game, it's coming along. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to look like in late January. You know, I don't know, on November 8th, I don't know what that means for minutes for him on that day, but I'm excited about what January 20th looks like for him. But really good group. You do feel like you don't have as much say in what that group looks like just by consequences of when you get the job, and I'm really happy that that's our freshman group. Thanks for coming, guys.